Picture yourself with a piece of bread in your hand. Its golden base and soft inside show how far people have come in the past few hundred years. But what if that small piece of bread held a story that went back thousands of years? Bread has gone from being a simple necessity to a global staple thanks to the cleverness of the ancient Egyptians and the technology advances of modern bread plants. We are going to talk about the history and making of bread today. We will reveal the secrets of how it changed over time and how it is made now. Let's learn more about this food's long history. Bread is one of the oldest foods that people have eaten. Its roots can be traced back more than 10,000 years to the Neolithic period. People in the Stone Age found that making flatbread by mixing ground grains with water and baking the mixture on hot stones was a simple but important step in the history of food. Around 3500 BCE, the Egyptians were the first people to learn how to ferment food, which made it possible to make leavened bread. Using yeast found in nature, they turned thick flatbreads into loaves that were lighter and airier. Egyptians thought bread was so important that they would bury their dead with it and the tools they would need to bake it in the next life. It became a skill in ancient Greece to make bread. Greek bakers played around with different grains, tastes, and community ovens, which made bread a mainstay of Mediterranean food. During the Middle Ages in Europe, making bread was an important part of group life, and every village had its own ovens for everyone to use. People looked up to bakers, and their skills were very important during times of famine. In the 1800s, the Industrial Revolution changed how bread was made. Steam-powered ovens and automatic mixers made it possible to make a lot of bread at once, which made it cheap and easy for everyone to get. Innovations like pre-sliced bread, which came out in 1928 and changed the way people ate bread forever, were made during this time. To make bread, you must first carefully choose high-quality materials. The main things that go into most breads are flour, water, yeast, and salt. Specialty breads like multi-grain cakes have extra ingredients like millet, flax seeds, sunflower seeds, oats, and barley. These grains and seeds come from reliable sources to make sure quality and stability. A grain mill is the first step in making flour. First, dirt is washed off the wheat, and then it is soaked to soften the top husk. The grains are crushed by steel rollers, and the wheat is put through several sieves to sort the flour from the other stuff. The process is done again and again until the fineness that is wanted is reached. After being packed into special trucks, the flour is taken to bakeries and stored in huge bunkers that can hold up to 1,000 tons of flour. Since flour is a powder that can catch fire, safety steps are taken during shipping and unloading. For example, the trucks are grounded to stop static electricity, and powerful fans are used to keep the dust down. These safety steps make sure that the process of making bread starts off smoothly and safely. The mixing step is the most important part of making bread. Industrial mixers that can handle up to 2,000 pounds of dough at once mix flour, water, yeast, sugar, salt, and sometimes oil or vinegar. For unique batches or handmade breads, extra ingredients like nuts, seeds, or spices are added by hand to make sure they are spread out evenly. Not only do you combine the ingredients when you mix, but you also build up the gluten structure of the bread. Gluten is a protein that is found in wheat. It gives bread its shape and flexibility. The mixers are very busy, and the blades that turn up to 360 times per minute make the dough. This step usually takes 12 to 15 minutes, during which time the dough gets sticky and stretchy. A fun fact is that while the dough is being mixed, small amounts of air are added. This trapped air is very important for the dough to rise later on during fermentation. After being mixed, the dough goes through fermentation, a process in which yeast breaks down the sugars in the dough to make alcohol and carbon dioxide. This chemical process makes the dough rise, which gives bread its typical light and fluffy texture. Most fermentation takes place in temperature-controlled rooms that are kept between 24 degrees Celsius and 29 degrees Celsius, 75 degrees Celsius to 85 degrees Celsius. For different kinds of bread, this step can take 30 minutes to 2 hours. The dough's size doubles or even triples during this time. This step isn't just about adding bulk, it also makes a big difference in how good the bread tastes. Depending on the recipe, the fermentation process adds to the depth of the dough by adding minor notes of sourness or sweetness. The dough is split up and formed into loaves after the baking process is over. In factories that make a lot of things, automatic dough divides cut the dough into exactly the same amounts. These tools can cut things into up to 192 pieces per minute, making sure that each piece is the same size and weight. For easy handling, the pieces of dough that have been cut up are often rolled into balls. A small film of flour is put on to keep things from sticking as they are processed further. To make the loaf shape, the dough is then put through tools that fold, roll, and shape it. Many thousands of cakes can be made by these machines every hour, but craft breads are still shaped by hand. Molds or trays are used to bake the loaves after they have been made. The end form of the loaf is determined by these molds, whether it's a traditional sandwich loaf, a rough artisan boule, or a unique design. During the baking process, the dough changes in the most noticeable way. Industrial ovens that can reach up to 475 degrees Fahrenheit, 245 degrees C, are used to put the dough shapes or trays in. Many of these stoves are over 40 meters long, which means they can bake thousands of loaves at once. The yeast keeps making carbon dioxide as the dough warms up until it dies at about 140 degrees C, 60 degrees C. This last rise, called oven spring, gives the bread its open shape. At the same time, the high temperatures start the Maillard reaction, a chemical reaction between sugars and amino acids that gives the bread its rich, nutty taste and golden crust. Different kinds of bread need different amounts of time to bake, from 20 to 45 minutes. Even baking is made possible by moving air around in the ovens, and steam is sometimes added to improve the crust structure and look. Bread that has just been baked needs to cool down before it can be sliced or packed. This step sets the bread's internal structure so that it doesn't fall apart or get gooey when it's sliced. Most of the time, loaves are cooled in big spinning towers that keep the temperature and humidity stable for 1 to 2 hours. After the bread is cooled, it is put through tools with long steel blades that slice it. Because they are so sharp, these blades are changed every couple of weeks to keep things precise. There are tools that can cut up to 65 loaves of bread per minute into regular slices very quickly. Depending on their size and function, most loaves are cut into 20 to 24 pieces. Packaging is the last step in the process of making bread. The cut bread is put into bags made of plastic or recyclable materials automatically. To keep the food fresh, these bags are either vacuum sealed or filled with gases that change the atmosphere. Then labels are put on which show information like when the food expires, what it contains, and the brand name. Bread that has been packaged is put on moving belts and sent to cars to be delivered. Every week, big shops make millions of loaves, which makes sure that places all over the world always have fresh bread. Modern operations make sure that bread stays fresh while it's being shipped, so it gets to customers in great shape. Bread has changed a lot over the years, from its Egyptian roots to current factory bakeries. The way it was made is a perfect mix of history, science, and art. Think about the long trip a slice of bread has taken to get to your table the next time you eat one. Please like, share, and subscribe if you thought the journey was interesting. You can find more stories about the things we love there. We'll see you in the next video.